On the night they fired Maria Alvarez, the mansion finally went quiet, but nothing inside that house would ever be the same again. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. The Hartley twins had a way of filling any space they walked into. Ethan Hartley, in a tailored navy suit, had loosened his tie the moment they stepped through the glass doors of their Los Angeles hillside mansion. His brother, Nathan, identical down to the light stubble on his jaw and the warm brown of his hair, kept his suit jacket on like armor. Both were in their mid-30s, fit, absurdly handsome, the kind of men who looked like they belonged in boardrooms and magazine covers, not in the middle of a household confrontation. But tonight, the polished marble foyer felt more like a courtroom. Maria stood near the staircase, hands clenched around the strap of her worn handbag. Her dark eyes were red from crying. She'd been with them for 7 years, longer than most of their staff, longer than many of their relationships. She knew how they liked their coffee, how they argued, how they avoided certain dates on the calendar without ever naming why. "I didn't take anything," Maria said quietly, her accent thickening with fear. "Mr. Ethan, you know me. I would never steal from you." Ethan's jaw tightened. The watch, the limited edition piece worth more than most people made in a year, had vanished from his dressing room. One of the security cameras had glitched that afternoon, recording only static, and the only person who had gone into his room, according to the system logs, was Maria. Nathan held a printed report in his hand, his expression colder than his brother's. "The logs don't lie, Maria. You had access. No one else did." Maria's gaze darted between them, desperately searching for the Ethan who used to joke with her in the kitchen, who asked about her son's school, who brought her a slice of cake on her birthday. "Please," she whispered. "Someone must have changed it. I didn't touch anything." Ethan looked at his brother, conflict written across his features. "Nate, this doesn't make sense. She's been with us since the condo in West Hollywood. You remember what she did when Mom was sick? She drove her to every appointment, even on her days off." Nathan's expression flickered, just for a second. Then it hardened. "And you remember what Dad always said? Trust the system, not your feelings. People change." He turned to Maria. "We are not calling the police, but this is your last night here. You'll receive 2 months' pay as severance. After that, we're done." Maria flinched as if he'd slapped her. Ethan exhaled, frustrated. "Nathan, do you want this in the press?" Nathan snapped softly, his voice dropping so only Ethan could hear. "Millionaire twins robbed by their own maid? Sponsors ask questions, investors get spooked. We handle this quietly. She leaves, we move on." The brothers stared at each other, mirror images with completely different storms behind their eyes. Maria straightened her shoulders. "I pray one day you will see the truth," she said, voice trembling. "I never stole from you, and I never betrayed you." She glanced at Ethan with a pleading look. "Especially you." That last line made Nathan's brows knit together, but he said nothing. Ethan's stomach twisted with guilt as he watched her walk out through the front door for the last time, her small figure swallowed by the darkness of the driveway. The security gate slid shut with a low mechanical hum that felt disturbingly final. The mansion fell silent. The ocean, far below, was just a faint, distant rush. Hours later, the staff wing felt emptier than ever. A cleaning cart sat abandoned beside the laundry room, as if Maria had simply stepped away for a moment. Ethan walked by, sleepless, restless, replaying the whole scene. He paused when he noticed something on the floor beside the cart, a small, worn notebook with a floral cover, the edges softened by time. It had slid halfway under the rolling wheels. Ethan bent down, picked it up, and flipped it open. On the inside cover, written in neat blue ink, was a name and a date, Maria A. Alvarez Journal, 2018. He hesitated. This was personal, private. He should leave it on the staff desk, send a message to let her know it could be picked up. That would be the respectful thing to do. But just beneath the title, a line of writing caught his eye, his own last name, underlined twice. Today, the Hartley brothers made a decision that will ruin one of them, and he doesn't even see it yet. Ethan froze. The page was dated 3 years earlier. "Ethan!" Nathan's voice echoed down the hallway. A moment later, his twin appeared at the doorway, loosening his tie as he walked in. "What are you doing down here?" Ethan snapped the journal closed, his heartbeat thudding in his ears. "Maria left this," he said carefully. "Her diary, I think. We should probably get it back to her." Nathan stepped closer, eyeing the notebook. "Or," he said, reaching out a hand, "we make sure it doesn't contain anything that can hurt us." Ethan hesitated, then handed it over. "You really think she'd write something dangerous?" "I think people write what they really think when they think no one will ever read it," Nathan replied. "And I don't like surprises." He opened to the same page Ethan had seen, his eyes scanning the lines. His expression shifted, just slightly at first, then darkened. He flipped to another page, and another. Ethan watched as his brother's shoulders tensed, his grip on the notebook tightening. "What?" Ethan asked, unease crawling up his spine. "What does it say?" Nathan's eyes lifted slowly from the diary, now colder than they had been all evening. "You're not going to like this," he said. "According to Maria, you and I were never on the same side, and she's been documenting every lie between us." He turned the notebook around, revealing a page where Ethan could see his own name underlined, right next to a sentence that started with, "If Nathan ever finds out what Ethan did." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Nathan didn't sleep that night. The city lights of Los Angeles glowed faintly beyond the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, but his eyes were fixed on the small floral notebook resting on his desk in the home office. The rest of the house was dark, the staff wing empty for the first time in years. Somewhere down the hall, Ethan's footsteps had gone quiet hours ago. Nathan flipped back to the first page with their name in it. Today, the Hartley brothers made a decision that will ruin one of them, and he doesn't even see it yet. The entry was dated March 12th, 2019, 3 years ago. Nathan read on, his heart pounding harder with every line. "Mr. Ethan trusts too easily. Mr. Nathan doesn't trust anyone. One of them is wrong. I just don't know which one yet." He skimmed, flipping pages, watching as years of quiet observation unfolded in Maria's careful handwriting. Notes about arguments in the kitchen when they thought no one was listening. Comments about board meetings overheard while she dusted the railing. Glances she had noticed between them when their father was mentioned. And then there was a line that made Nathan's breath hitch. "If Nathan ever finds out what Ethan did with the company funds, everything will break. I don't know if I should tell him. I don't know who deserves the truth." He read the sentence 3 times. "Company funds, Ethan." Nathan leaned back in his leather chair, staring at the ceiling. Their company, Hartley & Co., had survived their volatile father, 3 economic downturns, and more than 1 PR scandal. Nathan watched every decimal, every contract, every risk. Ethan was the visionary, the charm, the public face, the one investors wanted to have lunch with. Nathan was the one who made sure the lights stayed on. But company funds? He looked at the clock on the wall. 3:17 a.m. He should wait. He should verify the information, pull accounting reports, compare timelines. He should act like the disciplined CEO he was. Instead, he took the diary and walked down the hallway. Ethan's bedroom door was slightly open, light flickering from inside. Nathan pushed it wider and found his twin sitting on the edge of the bed, laptop open, a tumbler of whiskey untouched on the nightstand. Ethan looked up, eyes shadowed. Clearly, he hadn't been asleep either. "You still have it," Ethan said, noticing the diary in Nathan's hand. Nathan closed the door behind him with a soft click. "Yeah, I read more." Ethan swallowed hard. "And—" Nathan tossed the notebook onto the bed beside him. "You tell me." Ethan frowned, picking it up. "I told you. Whatever she wrote, she was scared, angry. She probably made assumptions she didn't understand. She wrote about company funds, Ethan." Nathan's voice was deceptively calm. "About something you did. Something I'm supposed to find out one day." The color drained from Ethan's face. For a second, something flickered in his eyes, guilt, or maybe just shock, but it was enough to make Nathan's chest tighten. "What exactly did she write?" Ethan asked, his voice a little too steady. Nathan folded his arms. "So there is something," Ethan hesitated. "I never took money from the company. If that's what you're implying—" "That's not an answer," Ethan exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "Nate, you know the expansion in Miami 2 years ago? There were reallocated funds. I told you that." "You told me we shifted budget from marketing to development," Nathan said. "You didn't tell me our maid apparently knew more about it than I did." There it was, the crack. Ethan opened the diary, flipping until he found the 2019 entry. His eyes darted across the page. As he read, his shoulders slumped. "I didn't tell her anything," he said quietly. "She must have overheard a call. I was dealing with one of the investors who wanted his payout early. I moved money temporarily to cover it until the next quarter. It wasn't illegal. Risky, maybe, but it worked. We never took a loss." Nathan stared at him. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have said no," Ethan replied, the frustration finally breaking through. "You always say no. No to risks. No to expansions. No to anything that doesn't fit into your precious models. I fixed it. No one got hurt." Nathan laughed once, humorless. "Accept our trust." He gestured to the diary, and apparently she saw that long before I did. Silence stretched between them, heavy and cold. "Do you really believe her over me?" Ethan asked finally, quieter now, the arrogance stripped away. Nathan didn't answer right away. That hesitation alone was another crack. "I believe numbers," Nathan said at last. "So tomorrow morning, I'm calling the CFO. We're pulling the reports from that quarter. If everything checks out, fine. We move on. But if I find even a cent that doesn't line up—" His voice trailed off, the threat hanging unspoken between them. Ethan closed the diary and pushed it back at him. "Then check. I have nothing to hide." But his hand shook slightly when he let go. Nathan noticed. As Nathan left the room, diary in hand, he couldn't ignore the bitter thought forming in the back of his mind. Maybe Maria hadn't betrayed them. Maybe she'd just seen what they refused to look at. The next morning, the mansion ran on autopilot. The temporary staff agency had already been contacted, but it would take days before a full replacement team could be assembled. The kitchen felt too quiet. The coffee wasn't quite right. No one hummed softly in Spanish while folding linens or straightening pillows on the living room couch. At the long marble breakfast island, Ethan scrolled through his phone, pretending to read emails. Nathan sat across from him with his laptop open, already on a video call with the CFO. His tone was clipped, professional. "I want a complete audit of Q2 and Q3 from 2 years ago," Nathan said. "Every transfer, every adjustment, every off-cycle payment. Send it to me by end of day." "Is everything okay?" the CFO asked, concerned. "Just revisiting some numbers," Nathan said, offering a tight smile. "Standard internal review." When the call ended, Ethan set his phone down. "You're really doing this?" Nathan met his eyes. You gave me a reason to... Ethan's jaw clenched. Or she did. Nathan almost answered, but his phone buzzed with a new notification. He glanced at the screen and froze. Unknown number. One new text. You fired the only person who was honest with you. You should really read page 76. His pulse spiked. His gaze snapped to Ethan, who looked confused. What is it? Ethan asked. Nathan locked the phone, shoving it face down on the counter. Nothing. Wrong number. But his mind was racing. Only two people knew about that diary, him and Ethan. Maria didn't have his number. At least, she shouldn't. Later, when he was alone, Nathan opened the diary to page 76 with trembling fingers. There, written in the same neat blue ink, was a line that made his world tilt. One of the brothers is being lied to, and the one lying isn't who everyone thinks. He read the next sentence, and something inside him went cold. What came next changed everything. Page 76 looked harmless at first. The date in the top corner was from 1.5 years ago, written in the same neat blue ink. One of the brothers is being lied to, and the one lying isn't who everyone thinks. Nathan's eyes tracked the next lines, his pulse thudding in his ears. Tonight I passed the office when Mr. Ethan was on the phone with Mr. Matthews, the CFO. They didn't see me. Mr. Ethan sounded nervous. He said, Nathan can't know about this yet. He'll kill the deal. Mr. Matthews said he would take the heat if it went wrong. Mr. Nathan always says he runs the numbers, but sometimes I wonder if he's the one being managed. Nathan's jaw clenched. Matthews, the man he trusted with every spreadsheet, every projection, every forecast, the one person in the company who understood numbers the way he did. He read on. Later that same week, I heard Mr. Matthews talking to Mr. Nathan in the library. I was dusting the shelves. He told Mr. Nathan he warned Mr. Ethan not to take risks, that he tried to protect the company, but he didn't say anything about taking the heat. I cleaned faster so they wouldn't stop talking. Mr. Nathan said, if Ethan sinks us, I'll never forgive him. I think one of them is being lied to, maybe both. Nathan stared at the last sentence until the words blurred. Matthews had always played the calm middleman, reasonable, measured, loyal. But if Maria was telling the truth, he'd been telling each twin a different version of the same story. Nathan felt something ugly crawl up his spine, not just anger at Matthews, but at Ethan too. Ethan had been the one saying, Nathan doesn't need to know yet. Ethan had been the one moving money behind his back, and Maria had known for over 1 year. He snapped the diary shut, the sound sharp in the quiet room. Downstairs, the house buzzed faintly with the sound of the espresso machine and a landscaper's leaf blower outside. It all felt too normal for the way his world was tilting. Nathan grabbed his keys. If he stayed in the mansion any longer, he'd say something he couldn't take back. At Hartley & Co.'s downtown office, Los Angeles looked cleaner through the floor-to-ceiling windows, less chaotic, more controllable. Employees straightened when Nathan walked past the glass-walled conference rooms. They always did. He was the serious twin, the one who showed up before sunrise and left after dark. Ethan, for once, arrived late. He walked into the 27th floor executive suite with his tie in his pocket and tired eyes, dropping his phone onto his desk. Traffic? Nathan asked without looking up from his screen. Barely slept, Ethan muttered. Kind of hard to get restful when your own brother is running an investigation on you. Nathan's fingers paused over the keyboard. I'm running an investigation on the numbers. If they clear you, you'll survive the emotional trauma. Ethan scoffed. You read a few pages of a maid's diary and suddenly I'm on trial. Nathan's gaze flashed up. She wrote what she saw. And so far, what she saw matches a lot of things you never bothered to tell me. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but a knock at the open office door cut him off. Matthews, the CFO, stepped inside with his usual polite half-smile. Grey at the temples, tailored suit, tablet in hand, he looked like stability in human form. You wanted to see me? Matthews asked. Nathan motioned to the chairs. Close the door. If Matthews noticed the tension in the room, he didn't show it. He clicked the door shut and took a seat, glancing between the twins. Ethan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Nathan's posture was razor straight. "I requested a full audit of Q2 and Q3 from 2 years ago," Nathan said, "but I have some questions now." Matthews nodded cautiously. "Of course." "Did Ethan ever instruct you to move money without telling me?" The question landed heavily. Ethan stiffened. Matthews adjusted his glasses. "We've adjusted allocations plenty of times. Marketing, R&D, expansion projects. That's not what I asked," Nathan cut in. "Specifically, did he tell you not to tell me about a fund reallocation connected to the Miami expansion and an investor payout?" Matthews' eyes flicked, just for a second, toward Ethan. It was enough. "Nathan," Ethan started, "this is ridiculous. You're turning a routine adjustment into—" "I'm asking him," Nathan snapped. He forced his voice lower. "Not you." Silence. Matthews finally exhaled. "There was a tense period with the Miami expansion," he admitted. "Ethan believed moving funds temporarily would secure the investor and buy us time. He was worried you'd shut it down. He asked me not to burden you with it until we knew if it would work." "So you lied to me," Nathan said softly. Matthews spread his hands in a placating gesture. "Lied is a strong word. You told me you were trying to protect the company from Ethan's impulses." Nathan's voice stayed calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Did you say that to him about me? Or were you just telling both of us, whatever kept us quiet?" Matthews hesitated. Ethan's stomach twisted. Suddenly, he saw their CFO differently, not as the safe middle, but as a man very good at staying employed between two stubborn brothers. "Nathan," Matthews said, choosing his words carefully, "you and Ethan both push hard in different directions. Sometimes I frame things in a way that gets you to listen. That's my job." "No," Nathan said. "Your job is to tell the truth." The room felt smaller. The city outside looked further away. Ethan's phone buzzed on the desk. He glanced at it, grateful for the distraction, until he saw the number, unknown. "One new message. He thinks you're the reckless one, but you should see what he's planning with the board." Attached was a photo of a diary page, Maria's handwriting. The heading, December 3rd, 2021. Ethan's heart kicked. He opened the image. The text swam into focus. "Tonight I was dusting the upstairs landing when Mr. Nathan met with the family lawyer in the study. Mr. Ethan was still at the hospital with their mother. Mr. Nathan asked, 'So if my brother keeps making these risky moves, is there a way to protect the company without him knowing at first?' The lawyer said, 'We can adjust the trust, quietly, for the company's sake. Mr. Ethan will never see it coming.'" Ethan's breath left his body. He felt suddenly acutely aware of his twin sitting 6 feet away, interrogating their CFO about loyalty. Matthews was still talking. Nathan was still demanding answers, but all Ethan could hear was the echo of those words. "We can adjust the trust, quietly." His thumb tightened around the phone until his knuckles went white. "Ethan," Nathan's voice cut through the haze. "You have something to add." Ethan looked up slowly, studying his brother's face. The same jawline, the same eyes, the same hair, and a completely different story behind them. He slipped the phone face down on the desk. "If he showed Nathan right now, this office would turn into a war zone." "Nothing," Ethan said. His voice came out flat. "I've heard enough." Nathan misread the tone as guilt. His expression hardened. In that moment, with the diary feeding each brother a different version of the truth, something invisible snapped between them. He had no idea the worst was yet to come. If this story is already touching you, leave a like. It helps the channel a lot. The fight didn't start with shouting. It started with silence. Back at the mansion that night, the Hartley house felt like a museum, vast, beautiful, echoing with things no one wanted to talk about. The temporary staff had left hours ago. Dinner sat untouched on the stove. Ethan stood alone in the living room, city lights glowing beyond the glass walls. The text message burned in his mind. "We can adjust the trust." Quietly. He poured himself a drink and didn't touch it. From upstairs, he heard footsteps, Nathan's, steady and measured. A moment later, his twin appeared on the balcony overlooking the living room, the floral notebook in hand like a judge carrying a file. "We need to go through this together," Nathan said. "Do we?" Ethan didn't look up. "Because it seems like you already picked your side." "I haven't picked anything." Nathan descended the stairs, each step slow, controlled. "That's the problem. I don't know what's true." Ethan turned, eyes sharp. "I got a message today, from an unknown number. Someone sent me a picture of one of Maria's entries, about you." Nathan stiffened. "What did it say?" Ethan laughed once, without humor. "Funny? That's what you've been asking me for 2 days. What did she write about me?" Nathan's grip tightened on the diary. "This isn't a game, Ethan." "No," Ethan said. "It's not." He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and swiped to the photo. For a second he considered not showing Nathan. Let him drown in his own suspicions the way he was drowning in his. But some stubborn, injured part of him still wanted his brother to explain. "Here," Ethan said, holding the phone out. "Read it." Nathan took the phone, scanning the entry. As he read, his face went pale. "So, if my brother keeps making these risky moves, is there a way to protect the company without him knowing at first? We can adjust the trust, quietly, for the company's sake. Mr. Ethan will never see it coming." Nathan looked up slowly. This isn't what it sounds like." "Oh, that's original," Ethan said, gesturing around them. "You've been treating me like a criminal over something I actually fixed, while you're in here plotting with lawyers about how to cut me out of the company for the company's sake." "That meeting was hypothetical," Nathan insisted. "Mom was in the hospital. The doctors weren't optimistic. She was terrified you'd do something drastic if she—" His voice faltered. "She was the one who asked if there was a way to keep you from blowing up everything if your grief got the best of you." The air left Ethan's lungs in a harsh exhale. "Don't drag Mom into this." Nathan stepped closer, eyes glassy but hard. "You were drinking heavily then. You were barely sleeping. You wanted to sign off on a risky acquisition the same week we got her diagnosis. She was scared for you. And so you went behind my back." "I went to get information," Nathan said. "The lawyer laid out options. I never changed the trust. I never signed anything. I was trying to protect both of us." The house seemed to hold its breath. "You want to know the worst part?" Ethan asked softly. "I believe you. I actually do. I believe you didn't sign anything. I believe you thought you were protecting the company. I even believe Mom asked." He laughed bitterly. "But you didn't trust me enough to tell me. You were willing to keep the option of cutting me out quietly." "That's not—" "Don't," Ethan snapped. "Don't tell me it's not what it looks like when you were ready to rewrite our entire future based on what a lawyer suggested behind closed doors." Nathan swallowed hard. "You moved company money and tried to hide it from me. And you tried to hide a legal weapon against me," Ethan shot back. "Looks like we're even." They stood inches apart, identical faces twisted into something unrecognizable. On the coffee table between them, the floral diary lay like a bomb. "Who keeps sending these pages?" Ethan asked. "You got a text, didn't you, about page 76? Nathan's eyes flashed. "How do you know that?" "Because you're jumpy," Ethan said. "Because you keep looking at your phone like it's about to explode. Because someone wants us both paranoid, and they're doing a pretty good job." Nathan exhaled. "I thought it was Maria, but there's something off." "What do you mean?" Nathan opened the diary and flipped to the middle. "Look at the binding," he said. "Do you see this?" Ethan frowned. A thin line ran near the spine, a faint ridge where pages had once been. And then weren't. Some pages are missing, Nathan said. Torn out carefully. Not recently. Before we found it. Ethan pulled the diary closer, turning it sideways. You're sure? Look at the page numbers, Nathan said, pointing. 74, 75. He flipped. Then 78, 79. Someone took out 76 and 77, but you and I both got photos of 76 today. The room went very still. If the original page 76 is gone, Ethan said slowly, where did those photos come from? Nathan's mind raced. Either Maria copied it before she tore it out, or someone else did. Why tear it out at all? Ethan asked. If she wanted us to know the truth, she would have left it in. Unless she didn't want us to see everything, Nathan said. Just the parts that would hurt the most. They both looked down at the diary, suddenly aware that they might be holding something that wasn't just a record, possibly a weapon shaped over years. What if some of this is real? Ethan said quietly. And some of it has been edited. Or forged, Nathan added. They stared at the careful handwriting, the looping letters that had once belonged to the woman who folded their shirts and vacuumed their hallways. Ethan rubbed his temples. Why would Maria do this? Nathan thought back to all the entries, the observations, the judgments, the way she described them like characters in a story she was watching from the sidelines. Maybe she got tired of being invisible, he said. Maybe she saw more than she wanted to. Maybe she blamed us for something we don't even know we did. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Both brothers flinched. Another unknown text, another photo. This time, it wasn't a full page, just a close-up of a paragraph, the edges of the paper ripped. They don't even remember what happened on the night their father left, but I do, and if they ever knew the truth, they would stop trusting each other forever. There was no date visible, no page number. Just those words. Ethan's hand shook as he turned the screen toward Nathan. Dad left when we were 19, Nathan said. There was nothing to remember. He stormed out after an argument, tried to cut us off financially, and Mom rebuilt. We were upstairs, Ethan said slowly. We heard shouting. We heard a door slam. We didn't see anything. Nathan's jaw tightened. Mom never talked about that night again. Maria did, Ethan said, staring at the text. To herself. In here, he tapped the diary. Apparently she knows something we don't. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was different, quieter, edged with something that sounded like dread. If someone is sending us this now, he said, they're not just trying to break the company. They're trying to break us, Ethan finished. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly over the hills, a rare storm rolling toward Los Angeles. Lightning flashed in the distance, mirrored in the glass walls of the mansion. Inside, two brothers stood in a living room built on glass and secrets, holding a diary that had stopped being just a record of the past and started becoming a script for their future. Ethan looked at Nathan. We need to find Maria, Nathan hesitated, or whoever has her phone. For the first time in days, they made a decision in unison. They went to the security room, pulled up old contracts, emergency contacts, anything that might give them an address beyond the one in the HR file. A small apartment in East LA, a listed emergency contact, Luis Alvarez, son, a community clinic Maria had taken time off for when her mother was sick. As Ethan grabbed his keys, Nathan watched him, torn between suspicion and the familiar instinct to trust his mirror image. Do you want to go together? Ethan asked. Nathan looked down at the diary in his hand, feeling the weight of every sentence inside it. Yeah, he said finally, if there are answers out there, we both need to hear them. He had no idea that leaving the house together didn't mean they would come back on the same side. East LA felt like a different world from their hillside mansion. The Hartley twins' black SUV looked out of place on the narrow street lined with aging apartment buildings, cracked sidewalks, and small trees struggling in square patches of dirt. Kids rode bikes in the fading evening light. The air smelled faintly of fried food from a corner taqueria. Ethan killed the engine, and for a moment, neither brother moved. "You sure this is the address?" Ethan asked. Nathan checked the HR file again on his phone. "This is what she listed when we updated staff records last year." They stepped out of the car, two impeccably dressed men in tailored shirts and expensive watches, drawing more than a few curious glances. Ethan tugged his sleeves down self-consciously. Nathan just squared his shoulders and walked toward the building entrance. The elevator was broken, of course. They climbed 3 flights of stairs, their footsteps echoing in the stairwell. On the 3rd floor, they found 3B, a worn door with peeling paint and a tiny decorative cross nailed above the peephole. Ethan exchanged a look with his brother. "You want to knock, or should I?" Nathan lifted his hand and knocked. At first, nothing. Then, the faint scrape of a chair, footsteps, a chain sliding back. The door opened a few inches. The young man on the other side looked to be in his early 20s, with Maria's dark eyes and the same serious set to his mouth. He wore a faded Dodgers t-shirt and held the door like he expected it to be kicked in at any moment. "Yeah," he asked cautiously. "Luis," Nathan said. "Luis Alvarez?" The young man's gaze flicked between them. His eyes narrowed. "You're them?" Ethan blinked. "We're who?" "The twins," Luis said flatly. "From the house." His gaze sharpened on Ethan. "You're Ethan, and you're Nathan." Hearing their names from a stranger's mouth, in this cramped hallway that smelled faintly of bleach and cooking oil, felt oddly surreal. Ethan cleared his throat. "We're here to talk about your mother." Something shuddered in Luis's face. He started to close the door. Nathan quickly stepped forward, hand braced against the frame, but not forcing it. "She was fired yesterday," Nathan said calmly. We know that was abrupt, but something has come up. We think your mother might be in danger, or we might be in danger because of something connected to her." Luis hesitated. His eyes moved down to Nathan's hand on the door, then back up to their faces. Finally, he sighed and stepped back. "You've got 5 minutes." The apartment was small but clean, everything meticulously organized. A crucifix hung on the wall above a brown couch. Family photos lined a narrow shelf, Luis as a child, a younger Maria smiling, an older woman in a hospital bed with Maria sitting beside her, holding her hand. Ethan felt a stab of guilt. Maria had spent years in their home, yet he realized he'd never once pictured where she went when she left. "Where is she?" Ethan asked. "Your mother." Luis folded his arms, leaning against the wall. "Where do you think?" "She's at my aunt's place, crying, trying to figure out how she's going to pay rent after you tossed her out like trash." Ethan flinched. Nathan's jaw tightened. "She was accused of stealing," Nathan said carefully. "But we're starting to think someone may have wanted it to look that way. We found something she left behind at the house." He pulled the floral diary from his jacket. Luis's eyes locked on it instantly. "That's my mom's," Luis said, voice dropping. "You read it?" "Yes," Nathan answered. "At least some of it. We didn't exactly have a choice." "That's funny," Luis snapped. "Because she never had a choice either. She just had to watch you two live in a house big enough to fit this whole building while she ironed your shirts and cleaned up your fights. We paid her well," Nathan said, defensively. "Yeah," Luis shot back. "And you think that cancels everything out?" Ethan stepped in. "Look, you're right. We've been distant. We didn't know how much she noticed, but someone is sending us photos of pages from this diary, pages that have been torn out." Luis's eyes flicked to the notebook again. torn out. Nathan opened it, turning it toward him, showing the gap. Here, 76 and 77. Luis stared at the missing pages, his expression complicated. "My mom writes in those things all the time," he said. "She says it's how she keeps from exploding." "Did she ever mention us?" Ethan asked quietly. Luis let out a bitter laugh. "Only all the time." He pushed away from the wall and walked to a small wooden cabinet in the corner. From the top drawer, he pulled out another notebook, different cover, same size, floral. "My mom started a new one after that night," he said. "The night she came home shaking and said she should quit but couldn't. I didn't understand at first." "What night?" Nathan asked. Luis looked at him, eyes hard. "The night your father tried to throw your mother out of the house. The night Maria saw him do something she never forgave." Ethan and Nathan exchanged a stunned glance. "What did he do?" Ethan asked. His voice came out hoarse. Luis didn't answer right away. He opened the second notebook and thumbed through the pages until he found what he wanted. He didn't hand it over. He read, "Tonight I finally saw who Mr. Hartley really is," Luis read aloud. "The father, not the twins. They still think he's just strict. They don't know what he tried to do." He glanced up at them. "It says your father had the lawyer come over late. Your mom was there. Maria was cleaning upstairs when she heard yelling. She went to the landing and watched." Nathan's throat felt dry. "Watched what?" Luis read on. "He told their mother he was moving everything out of her name. The house, the company shares, the accounts. He said she was too soft on the boys, that she was making them weak. He said if she didn't sign, he'd cut her off and leave the country. Start over without them." Ethan's mind reeled. That wasn't the story they'd grown up with. "Mom always told us he walked out because he couldn't handle responsibility," Ethan whispered. "She never said he tried to take everything." "Maria says your mom refused to sign," Luis continued. "She said she'd rather live in a one-bedroom apartment with her sons than in a mansion owned by a man who would abandon them." He swallowed. "Your father grabbed her wrist. The lawyer tried to calm him down. Your mom told him to leave. He said he'd make sure they all regretted it." Nathan's hands curled into fists. "We never heard any of that. We were upstairs. We just heard shouting." "You heard what they wanted you to hear," Luis said. "My mom heard the rest." Ethan sank onto the edge of the couch, barely noticing the cushions. "Why didn't she tell us?" Luis snapped the notebook shut. "Because it wasn't her place. That's what she always said. I am the help, Luis. I see everything, but I keep it to myself." Nathan looked at the diary in his own hand. "She didn't keep it to herself. She put it where it belongs," Luis shot back. "With her, not with you. You were never supposed to read it. And before you ask, no, I didn't send you any photos." Ethan frowned. "Do you have her old phone?" Luis shook his head. "She only got a new one last month. Her old one's in there." He nodded toward a small box by the TV. "The screen's cracked. Battery's dead. We haven't even turned it on." Nathan and Ethan exchanged a look. "You. And she doesn't know we have the diary," Nathan said slowly. "Then who's sending those pages?" Luis hesitated. "There is one person who knew my mom wrote about your family." "Who?" Ethan asked. Luis sighed. "Her sister, my Aunt Rosa. Sometimes she'd read a little and yell at my mom for writing so much. Said it was dangerous, putting those kinds of things on paper about rich people who could crush you." "Where does she live?" Nathan asked. "Riverside," Luis said, "but she doesn't text in English. She barely texts at all." "So maybe not her," Ethan murmured. Luis looked between them, frustration morphing into something like reluctant concern. "Look, whatever's happening with those messages, my mum didn't mean to hurt you. She was just trying not to lose her mind watching all of this from the background." Ethan nodded slowly. "We need to talk to her, not to accuse her. To understand." Luis studied them for a long moment. The silence stretched. Finally, he walked to the counter, grabbed his phone and tapped a message. "I'm sending her a text," he said. "If she agrees to see you, it'll be at my aunt's place, neutral ground. If she doesn't," he shrugged, "then you're on your own." Nathan exhaled. "Thank you." Luis shook his head. "Don't thank me. Just, if you figure out who's using my mom's words to mess with you, and it puts her in danger, you fix it. That's the only thing that matters to me. Everyone thought this was just about a diary and a fired maid. It wasn't. He had no idea the worst was yet to come." The next afternoon, the Hartley twins drove an hour east, trading the polished glass of downtown for long stretches of freeway, strip malls, and stucco houses browned by the California sun. Nathan drove in silence. Ethan stared out the window, watching the city thin out into something flatter, older, more tired. Luis had texted them an address in Riverside, a single-story house with a small front yard full of potted plants and a faded plastic chair by the door. An older Honda sat in the driveway. "Ready?" Ethan asked, though he didn't feel ready at all. "No," Nathan said, "but we're here." They walked up the path together. Before they could knock, the door opened. Maria stood there, smaller than either of them remembered. Without her uniform, in a simple floral blouse and dark skirt, she looked less like the quiet force that kept their mansion running and more like what she really was. A woman who'd spent her life working for people like them and going home to places like this. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying recently. But when she saw them, her shoulders went straight, chin lifting just enough to show she still had pride. "Mr. Ethan, Mr. Nathan," she said cautiously. "Luis said you wanted to talk." Behind her, a woman in her 50s watched from the small living room. Rosa, presumably, arms crossed, expression sharp and suspicious. "We're not here to fight," Ethan said quickly. We need answers." "About what you think I stole?" Maria asked, voice tight. Nathan shook his head. "About this." He held up the floral diary. Maria's face changed. Her hand flew to her mouth. "You read it," she whispered. Ethan stepped forward, guilt all over his face. "We didn't mean to invade your privacy. I found it on the floor by the laundry room. We were going to give it back, but then—" He glanced at Nathan. "The pages about us. About the company. We started getting texts with photos of certain entries. Pages that are missing now." Maria's eyes flicked to the diary, then to Nathan's phone, then to Luis, who had appeared behind them, hovering in the doorway. Rosa spoke up from the couch, her accent thicker than Maria's. "I told you, Hermana. Writing about rich people like that, dangerous. Now look." "Did you send them?" Nathan asked Rosa. "The photos." Rosa narrowed her eyes. "You think I have time to play games with millionaires? I work double shifts. I barely text my own kids." "Then who did?" Ethan asked Maria quietly. Maria didn't answer at first. She gestured for them to come in. The twins stepped into the small living room, suddenly hyper-aware of their expensive clothes, their polished shoes on the worn rug. Maria motioned to the couch. They sat. She remained standing. "That notebook is mine," she said. "I wrote because I had no one to talk to about what I saw. Your fights, your father, your mother's sickness, the lawyers, all of it. We're starting to understand that," Nathan said, "but some pages are missing. 76, 77. And yet we got photos of page 76 yesterday. Someone else has copies. We need to know who." Maria's fingers twisted in the hem of her blouse. For the first time since they'd arrived, she looked truly frightened. "There was one night," she said slowly, "about 6 months ago. I stayed late to clean the study after you left for New York. Mr. Ethan was already upstairs. I was finishing dusting when someone came back to the house to pick up documents they forgot." Nathan's stomach dropped. He already knew the name before she said it. "It was Mr. Matthews," Maria whispered. "The finance man, the one with grey hair at the temples. He had a key." Ethan sat forward. "The CFO?" Maria nodded. "He went to the study. I went to the kitchen. I forgot my notebook on the console table by the stairs. When I came back—" She swallowed. He was reading it. Silence dropped like a stone. "What did he say?" Nathan asked, voice low. "He apologized," Maria said. "He said he thought it was a company notebook, not personal. He closed it, said he didn't mean to invade my privacy." Her eyes went distant, replaying it. "But he said something else before he left. He said, 'You see everything in that house, don't you?'" I didn't answer. He smiled, small, not nice. He said, "People like you always know more than they're supposed to." Ethan felt cold. "Did you ever see him with your notebook again?" Maria shook her head. "I started hiding it better, in the staff closet, in the laundry basket under the towels." "Did you ever tear out pages?" Nathan asked. "Carefully?" Maria hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Yes, twice," she admitted. "After the night with your father, and after something else." "What's something else?" Ethan pressed. Maria looked like she wanted to be anywhere but in that room. "The night you two had that big fight in the kitchen," she said softly. 2 years ago, about who should be CEO. Nathan remembered, a late-night argument, words he regretted even as he said them. Ethan remembered the way his brother had shouted, "If you weren't my twin, I'd never trust you with any of this." "I wrote everything," Maria said. "Too much. I wrote things I saw in your faces, things I thought, ugly things. Then I felt ashamed. Who was I to judge you? I'm just the help. So I tore out some pages. I burned one. I kept one." "Which one did you keep?" Nathan asked. She glanced at Luis, then Rosa, then at the diary in his hand. 76. The original. Ethan's pulse kicked. "You still have it?" Maria nodded slowly. "In my room. I kept it because it talked about your father and the lawyer, and about money. I was afraid that if anyone saw it, it could hurt you. Or me." Nathan exhaled. "Someone already saw it." Maria frowned. "I told you, only I—" "Someone has photos of it," Ethan cut in gently. "That's what we've been getting. Cropped pictures, just enough to twist the knife." Maria's face crumpled. "I would never send anything to hurt you," she said, voice breaking. "Even after you fired me, I was angry, yes, hurt, but not like this. I prayed for you on the bus ride home." Rosa's eyes softened, just a little. Luis stared at the floor. Nathan felt something shift in his chest, an uncomfortable realization that the woman standing in front of him had more loyalty than some people with corner offices and bonuses. "Do you have the page?" he asked gently. Maria nodded and disappeared down the hallway. The twins sat in tense silence until she returned with a single sheet of notebook paper, edges worn, folded in fourths. She held it like something that might burn her fingers. Nathan took it carefully, unfolding it. There it was, page 76 in Maria's handwriting. He and Ethan leaned in together. "One of the brothers is being lied to, and the one lying isn't who everyone thinks." But below the line they'd seen before, there were sentences they hadn't. "Tonight I passed the office when Mr. Ethan was on the phone with Mr. Matthews, the CFO. They didn't see me." Mr. Ethan sounded nervous. He said, "Nathan can't know about this yet. He'll kill the deal." Mr. Matthews said he would take the heat if it went wrong. But earlier this week, I heard Mr. Matthews talking to Mr. Nathan in the library. He told Mr. Nathan he warned Mr. Ethan not to take risks, that he tried to protect the company. He didn't say anything about taking the heat. I cleaned faster so they wouldn't stop talking. I think Mr. Matthews likes it when they don't trust each other. If they fight, he is the only one they both listen to. That gives him power." Ethan and Nathan looked at each other. The cropped version they'd received had stopped before that last line. "Whoever sent us the photo," Ethan said slowly, "cut off the part that points to Matthews and left in the part that makes us suspicious of each other." Nathan added. Maria watched their expressions change. Fear flickered in her eyes. What does that mean? It means, Nathan said, his voice turning to ice, someone who had access to this page wanted to turn us against one another. And the one person we know read your diary without your permission works for us. Worked, Ethan corrected. Past tense. His jaw tightened. Because whether or not he's the one sending texts, this proves one thing. He's been playing both sides for a long time. Louis stepped forward, anger and protectiveness warring on his face. Are you going to fix this, or are you going to let whoever's doing this blame my mom forever? Ethan stood. We're going to fix it, he said quietly, but we need you to be careful, all of you. If someone's willing to manipulate us, they won't think twice about using you. Maria clutched her hands together. I never meant for any of this, she whispered. I just wrote what I saw. Nathan surprised everyone, including himself, by stepping closer and softening his voice. Maria, I'm sorry for how we fired you, for not listening, for forgetting you were more than just someone who made our lives easier. Ethan nodded, his own voice rough. We should have trusted you before we trusted a diary taken out of context. Rosa sniffed. Rich boys saying sorry must be the end of the world. But there was less bite in it now. As they left the small house, the sun was starting to set. The sky streaked orange and pink over the neighborhood. Near the car, Ethan stopped. We go back to the office first thing tomorrow, he said. No lawyers, no PR, just us and Matthews. Nathan nodded, something fierce settling in his chest. He's been using our fear of each other to stay untouchable. Not anymore, Ethan said. Everyone thought it was just the Maid's diary turning them against each other. They were about to find out who was really writing the story. Hartley and Co. felt different when you walked in before sunrise. The lobby lights were dimmer, the building quieter, the usual buzz of assistants and executives replaced by the soft hum of cleaning crews and security guards. Ethan and Nathan flashed their badges and went straight to the private elevator without speaking. On the 27th floor, their footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. Ethan's tie hung loose around his neck. Nathan was already in work mode, shirt perfectly buttoned, jaw set. You ready for this? Ethan asked. I'm done being managed in my own company, Nathan said. So yeah, I'm ready. They didn't call Matthews. They waited. At 8:02 a.m., the CFO stepped off the elevator, coffee in one hand, tablet in the other, expression as calm as ever. When he saw both brothers standing outside his office door, something flickered in his eyes, gone almost as soon as it appeared. Morning, Matthews said. To what do I owe the ambush? We need to talk, Nathan said. Inside. Now? Matthews glanced at the glass walls around them, at the empty hallway, then nodded and unlocked his office. It was neat, every file in its place, a framed photo of his sailboat on one wall. The city spread out beyond the window, smug and indifferent. Ethan closed the door behind them. Nathan didn't sit. Is there a problem? Matthews asked, setting his coffee down. Yes, Nathan replied. You... Matthew's brows rose. That's a bold opening. Nathan set Maria's diary on the desk between them. You remember this. Matthews went very still. For a second, his gaze dropped to the floral cover, just long enough to confirm everything Maria had said. That's the housekeeper's, he said carefully. You read it, Ethan said, 6 months ago, in the house. Matthews gave a small, dismissive shrug. I glanced at it by mistake. I thought it was one of your mother's old notebooks. She used to leave documents everywhere. Don't, Ethan said. The word came out sharper than he intended. Don't drag my mother into this to make it sound harmless. Nathan opened the diary, flipped to the middle, then placed a loose page on top, the original 76. We've seen the photos, he said, the cropped versions of this, sent from an unknown number. just enough to make us suspicious of each other. Not enough to show this part. He tapped the final lines about Matthews enjoying their distrust, about power. Why would someone cut that out? Nathan asked quietly. Unless they had a reason to protect you. Matthews stared at the page, then at them. The polite facade cracked, just a hair. What exactly are you accusing me of? He asked. Ethan folded his arms. Manipulating us, feeding both sides, moving money with me while telling him you're protecting the company, and now weaponizing a maid's diary to make sure we never trust each other long enough to compare notes. Matthews leaned back in his chair, studying them like a case study in a business course. You two were never as united as you thought, he said. All it took was a few truths with the edges sanded off, and you did the rest yourselves. So you admit it, Nathan said. His voice was calm, but his hands were clenched. I admit, Matthews said slowly, that I read more than I should have, and I took photos of a few pages. Insurance. Because working between twin brothers who could fire me in a single tantrum isn't exactly stable employment. Insurance, Ethan repeated, incredulous. You call this insurance? You turned our lives into a psychological landmine. Matthew's mouth tightened. You're adults, CEOs, not children. I didn't make you hide things from each other. I didn't make Ethan move funds without telling you. I didn't make Nathan meet with lawyers behind Ethan's back. I just let the truth float where it needed to go. And pushed it, Nathan said, sometimes selectively, sometimes at exactly the right moment. Matthews didn't answer. He didn't have to. Nathan stepped closer to the desk. Where are the photos? Deleted, Matthews said. You think I'm stupid enough to keep them on my phone? We think you're arrogant enough to, Ethan shot back. That's different. Matthews's gaze chilled. Careful, Ethan. Nathan reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and tapped a few keys. I had IT run a trace, he said, on the unknown number sending us those texts. Burner app, masked ID, but it still has to route through a device. He lifted his eyes. Care to guess which company phone it pinged through 2 days ago? Matthew's jaw shifted. Lots of people use company phones. Not this one, Nathan said. It's assigned to you. For the first time, Matthews looked genuinely cornered. You think you can just walk in here, throw around accusations, and what, he snapped, push me out? Destroy the man who kept this company from collapsing every time one of you had a brilliant idea that almost tanked us. Ethan leaned over the desk, their faces inches apart. We think, he said quietly, that the man who claims he saved us has been betting on us falling apart. Nathan dropped a folder onto the desk. I had legal pull copies of the emergency protocols, he said. Funny thing. Last month, you updated the section on executive incapacitation. It outlines how, in the event of a deadlock between equal shareholders, the board can temporarily transfer decision-making authority to the CFO, Matthews finished, the words forced through gritted teeth. Ethan stared at him. You were planning for us to be at each other's throats. I was planning for stability, Matthews snapped. This company is bigger than your sibling drama. Someone has to be the adult in the room. Nathan's voice dropped. You don't get to call yourself the adult when you're sending anonymous texts from burner apps. Matthews said nothing. The silence was its own admission. Ethan straightened. His voice, when he spoke, was weirdly calm. You're fired. Matthews laughed, sharp and disbelieving. You can't do that. Nathan opened another folder, this one thinner. Actually, we can, he said. We're co-CEOs, joint control. And if we find out you've leaked anything about us, about Maria, about those diary pages, we will bury you in litigation for the next 10 years. Matthews stared at them, the realization finally settling in. The twins were not, in fact, destroyed. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. You think cutting me out will fix what's broken between you. It won't. You did that all by yourselves. Nathan's jaw flexed. Maybe, but at least now we'll be arguing with each other instead of through you. Matthews stood, straightened his tie, and picked up his tablet. As he passed Ethan, he paused. For what it's worth, he said, your mother was the only one who ever scared me. She saw exactly who your father was, and exactly who you are. He walked out without looking back. The door clicked shut. For a long moment, the twins just stood there, surrounded by evidence of the man who had quietly sat between them for years, pulling strings they didn't even see. Finally, Ethan exhaled. We did let him in, he said. We made it easy. Nathan nodded, staring at the diary on the desk, because trusting each other felt harder than trusting the guy with the spreadsheets. Ethan picked up the floral notebook, turning it over in his hands. We still don't know who we are without other people telling us, he said softly. Dad, Mom, Matthews, even Maria, in her own way. Nathan looked at his brother. The same face he'd stared at his whole life, suddenly unfamiliar and painfully known at the same time. Maybe, he said, we start by telling each other everything. No filters, no CFO, no diaries. Ethan managed a small, tired smile. You first? Nathan nodded. Fine, but not here. I'm not pouring my soul out under fluorescent lights, Ethan snorted. Mansion? Yeah, Nathan said. Home. Everyone thought firing the maid and confronting the CFO was the end of the story. It wasn't. The mansion felt smaller that night. The city still sparkled beyond the glass walls. Cars still flowed down the hill like streams of light. But inside the Hartley house, everything had narrowed to one room, one couch, two brothers. Ethan sat with a glass of whiskey in his hands, elbows on his knees, staring at nothing. Nathan sat opposite him, Maria's floral diary on the coffee table between them like a witness. For a while, neither spoke. It was strange how easy silence came when there was too much to say. You first, Ethan said eventually, voice low. You promised, Nathan exhaled. Fine. He leaned back, eyes on the ceiling as if the words were written there. I met with the lawyer because I was scared, he said, not just of you, of becoming Dad. Ethan frowned. You're nothing like him. That's the problem, Nathan said quietly. I am, sometimes. The way I grab control, the way I decide what's best for everyone without asking. He gave a small, humorless smile. He wanted to move everything out of Mom's name. I wanted to move the power out of your hands if you got too emotional. Different motive, same method. Ethan turned the glass in his hands. You thought I'd blow up the company after Mom got sick. You were drowning, Nathan said. You were drinking, signing things without reading them. I kept thinking, if I don't build a safety net, we all go down. But I didn't trust you enough to say that out loud, so I asked a stranger in a suit how to quietly keep you from making decisions. And then never did it, Ethan pointed out. You could have signed. You didn't. Nathan shrugged. Doesn't make the secret less ugly. The room settled again. The air felt heavier, but in a way that meant it was no longer pretending to be light. Ethan took a breath. My turn, I guess. He looked up, meeting his brother's eyes. I moved the money because I couldn't stand the idea of losing, he said. Not the deal. You. Nathan blinked. Me? You don't remember, do you? Ethan asked softly. After Dad left. You were 19, furious, saying you'd never need anyone. Mum kept saying, promise me you'll stick together. Promise me the company won't split you the way your father's pride split this family. Nathan's throat tightened. She made us swear. Yeah, Ethan said, and somewhere in my twisted head, if a deal failed on my watch, if investors bailed on my ideas, that would prove you right, that you were the only one who deserved to be in charge. He swallowed. So I bent the rules. I asked Matthews to help. I told myself I'd fix it before you ever knew. And he loved that, Nathan muttered. Yeah, Ethan said. He did. They both glanced at the diary. Security found the watch, Nathan said after a moment, in Matthew's locked cabinet at the office. Ethan's head snapped up. When? While you were driving home, Nathan said. He had a duplicate access code to the house from the early days, when Dad hired him and forgot to revoke it. The camera glitched the night the watch disappeared. It traced it back to his login, trying to bypass the feed. Ethan laughed once, bitter. So he stole from us, framed Maria, and then used her words to keep us too busy fighting each other to see it. Pretty much, Nathan said. HR's already forwarding the evidence to legal. If he ever tries to spin a story in the press, we have leverage. But that doesn't clean Maria's name, Ethan said. Not where it matters. Nathan nodded. I drafted something before you came downstairs. He reached into his pocket and unfolded a paper. A letter, to her, and one to the staff, and one for the agency, officially clearing her of any suspicion, stating we were wrong, putting the blame where it belongs. Ethan took the paper, scanning the words. For once, he didn't edit, didn't argue. It's good, he said. It sounds like you. It sounds like both of us, Nathan said. You'll sign it too. I will, Ethan said. He set the letter down and leaned back. What about Luis? What about him? He's 20-something, sharp, defensive in all the right ways, Ethan said. Knows exactly how the world works for people like them. We owe them more than an apology letter. Mum would kill us if we just said sorry and walked away. Nathan's mouth curved, the ghost of a real smile. You have something in mind. A scholarship, Ethan said. Payment for our guilt. A start, Nathan corrected. Not payment. Investment. They spent the next hour sketching it out together. A full ride for Luis. Business school, if he wanted it, or trade school. Whatever he chose. A consulting role for Maria, if she accepted it, not as a maid, but as a household manager, with benefits and boundaries and the right to say no when their chaos spilled over. There's one more thing, Ethan said when they were done. He picked up the diary, thumbing through the pages. This. Burn it, Nathan suggested. His voice made it half joke, half serious. Ethan shook his head. No, it saved us as much as it hurt us. Saved? Nathan raised a brow. You have an odd definition of saved. If we hadn't read it, Ethan said slowly, we'd still be walking around pretending everything was fine. Matthews would still be pulling strings. We'd still be letting Dad's shadow run this place. He looked at his brother. Maria wrote the parts of our lives we refused to say out loud. That's ugly and kind of holy. Nathan watched his twin with a look that was almost amused. You're turning our Maid into a prophet. Maybe she always was, Ethan said. They shared a smile, small, wary, but real. Then we give it back, Nathan decided. All of it. Originals, copies. It's her story, not ours. And maybe, Ethan added, we write our own, together, without someone else narrating who's the responsible one and who's the reckless one. Nathan studied him. You know, Mom always said you were the brave one. Ethan snorted. She said you were the smart one. She lied, Nathan said. We're both idiots. They laughed then, full, exhausted, the kind of laughter that comes after a storm, when the house is still standing and you're half surprised to find you're still alive. 2 weeks later, the Hartley mansion felt different, not because of the new art on the walls or the fresh flowers in the foyer, but because of the woman moving through the space with quiet authority. Maria, in a crisp, dark dress instead of a maid's uniform, walked through the kitchen with a tablet in hand, reviewing schedules with the new cleaning staff. She wasn't scrubbing floors anymore. She was managing the people who did. Luis leaned against the counter, flipping through a packet from a university, trying and failing not to smile. Full tuition, he muttered. Books, housing, this is insane. You earned it, Ethan said from the doorway. He and Nathan stood side by side, open collars, no ties, still millionaires, but slightly more human. You kept your mom grounded when we didn't even know she needed it. Nathan handed him a card. And when you graduate, there's a job waiting here if you want it. Not because you owe us, because we'll be lucky to have you. Luis swallowed hard. You know I still talk trash about rich people, right? Good, Ethan said. We need someone to fact-check our reality. Maria approached them, holding the floral diary. For the first time since they'd seen it, it was closed with a ribbon around it, like something finished. This belongs to me, she said, and it stays with me. We agree, Nathan said, but I wanted to tell you something, Maria added, looking between them. I wrote about you like characters in a story. One stubborn, one impulsive, one careful, one brave. I thought the diary was turning you against each other. It did, Ethan said easily, and then it turned us back around. Maria's eyes softened. It only wrote down what was already there. Ethan nodded. The rest is on us. She hesitated. I started a new notebook, she said, after you came to see me, after you apologized. I don't write about you as my bosses anymore. How do you write about us now? Nathan asked. Maria smiled, just faintly. As two brothers who finally decided to grow up. She walked away to answer a question from one of the new staff. Ethan and Nathan stood there for a moment, watching the woman whose quiet observations had nearly broken them, and somehow helped rebuild them. Think Dad would hate this? Ethan asked, glancing at the busy kitchen, the scholarship papers, the contract making Maria officially Household Operations Director. With every cell in his body, Nathan said, deals being made in towers of glass. Inside, two brothers were learning, slowly, awkwardly, to run a company and a family without turning either into a battlefield. The diary that had once turned them against each other didn't disappear. It just stopped being the only version of the truth. Now, they were writing the rest themselves. If you're enjoying these stories, subscribe to the channel and follow the next videos, and tell us in the comments what this story meant to you.